Hi again. I know it's a new part because I just have put the other one in a video, right? So, hi. If you haven't seen the other parts, it would be great if you do that. Otherwise, just tune in and then decide later maybe. So this is, as you see in the thumbnail, about the divine connection, your divine connection, getting prepared, right, for a Phoenix moment. So Phoenix moment, that definitely speaks about first chakra, like root chakra, which is life, 3D life, right? That's why there's the red rose, and it's on the divine masculine side, because they need to open their life. And we have something else to do here as the divine feminines. I just address everyone here as divine feminine, okay? Gender isn't relevant, but typically it's divine feminines listening. And while I was tuning out and in and channeling a lot of things before and after recording, I got a bunch of other cards, as well as this one showing up as very important for what's happening on the divine masculine side right now. So we are going in there later. But yeah, we have all these beautiful cards. This came penetrantly out later, like 3 times. It wasn't there in the first place, but these came out all together, like yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, right? And so it is kind of like this. Yes, it is manifested. It's a divine union. And we are manifesting that. And with we are manifesting that, I literally mean you and your higher selves. Basically, that's what's happening in the stars, of course, in the sky, right? It's your future calling that in. It's your future who has already experienced that and who knows it's possible. It's your future self calling for you. And on the divine masculine side, it's this being struck, right, with the truth, being like, it hits them full force. And yeah, we will go back in there later. And on the divine feminine side, it's a lot about the self-confidence in the physical body, but also about willpower. And this is what I need to address first. Because can you see a 4 of Wands? What's holding it together? It's not the love. No. It's wands. What are wands, please? Doing and wanting. It's, of course, it's the spark in the body, right? Which just gets you going. But then it's also about perseverance in the whole journey of the wands we do have, you know. The 9 of Wands, which literally says perseverance. It's the wounded warrior who holds on because he wants, you know, he absolutely. And yeah, and then in the 10 of Wands, he brings all his wands to the castle, and here we see them like stable, celebrating. And a 4 is an internal energy. So this stability is something that is happening inside the human being, inside the soul. So we do need stability and balance to hold that, and it needs to be forged out of willpower. So it is, yeah. And on their side here, we do have a decision, right? This is the mental decision. Yes, right? This is the yes. Yes, I will. But then there are a lot of little things that are required to hold a happily forever after together. And that's never shown in the movies. And I channeled a beautiful thing about that right before the video. And I share that with you. I wrote it all down, and it's a chapter of I don't know what, maybe a book. But it's really about what's not shown in the world, right? And about all the narratives about we need princess treatment and all that. No, that's totally not correct. Totally not. Because marriage, that's a sacred ritual, and it has nothing to do with the label, by the way. It's just the inner path. It's a sacred, sacral path. It's a divine path. That's why you are here, because you feel that. And that's why you are listening to spiritual content, because you feel that this is more than just worldly love. And yes, it is. And on the masculine side, it is literally the initiation of becoming, of stepping into purpose. And we have that even with the angel cards, totally. So we do have on their side Archangel Nathaniel and Archangel Raziel. And Nathaniel, that's all about discovering the own purpose, feeling called, feeling called and understanding, yes, my life is more than having a beer in the evening and getting to work in the morning. And maybe having, a little bit of comfort, maybe even a little bit of cuddling in the evening, which is, more than most people these days have, because society has taught us to stay rather single. And why do they do that? Because separated and isolated, we are easily controlled. Let that sink in for a minute. And yeah, so that's why union is an important project, right? And I forgot who said that, but there is a saying that there is no such thing as society, but only families and the relatives around that, like the people around that. And some people who haven't families, they are then, teachers or whatever. And they are also just surrounding families. And it was like that earlier in the tribe, we had this fireplace where all the young children were raised and the mother caring, right? And she had the help of the aunties without children and of the grandmothers who have time now, right? And so a happy family back then was handed through many people, with many hands. And it was a natural process. And the civilization we live in today, which is quite toxic, as you might know, and have felt maybe throughout all your life, how difficult it even is to raise kids or whatever and still be sustained physically, because you can't do both, right? As a woman, you can't. And so, and there are a lot of narratives that it's better for women to go to work, and then of course, the government is so kind and they take your kids. But yeah, think about that for a minute. Is that really kindness, right? Wouldn't it be much kinder for the children to be raised with closeness and emotional support in some other constructions, right? And when my kids were small, I literally opened up an own kindergarten at my house for just 10 kids, and we had a wonderful time then. But it's not that easy, of course, to find, and not in every situation it's possible that we can do that. But yeah, this is also a thing to think about, I feel, for the future. So important to set some impulses maybe for future families and for future society, right? What can be built again. And next thing is, of course, so we do have a separation right there in between women and their own children. Then we have the next separation in between normal adults and elders, which earlier the elders, they were just supporting the whole tribe, right? And these days we say, well, they don't know nothing because they are old, which is ridiculous. It's, of course, the other way around. They know a lot because they have so much experiences. And then we think, but only people who have just studied new stuff, they know everything. But, well, yes, is that so? They just know what's trendy right now, you know, what's just released from the government to be the narrative for right now. But sometimes it's good to, of course, you know, look a little bit deeper and back. We know that. And so there are so many separations, and of course there's also the cut in between man and woman, or the male and the female, or the, you know, masculine and feminine part. And we do try, I mean, not we, but it's been tried, you know, with feminism to force equality. And that equality that's forced through feminism, that just means, okay, women now are also allowed to just be men, because that's, of course, the best way, again, for the system. Then everyone goes to work, you know, works for the system, and no one spends time being and receiving messages and creating paradise, literally. So of course we do need feminine energy, right? And we do need for our feminine energy. And I'm not saying that's only a woman thing. And of course I'm not saying that we cannot have both energies. Of course I say we can, right? We can. And we do have, even as guidance, to totally stand strong in our physical self here, right? Strong feminine energy, just with the lion there. That's just the same energy. And I will go deeper into the strength card later. Also, we do have on our side the King of Pentacles, which we had read from the shadow side earlier, and as what was wrong on the divine masculine side, right? And I want to also rein it back a little bit and not only project everything on the other person, right? Because everything is also an internal aspect. And what's happening on the masculine side always will reflect, like on your counterpart side, right? What in their journey, this always is directly reflected internally in your life, and it's in your own masculine side. So in your relationship to work and doing life, basically. So your masculine side, that's not the being, but that's, you know, the doing. And also the thinking. So it's air and fire, right? And it's how you show up in life. It's how authentically are you expressing yourself? How true are you to your inner core values? How much are you afraid of letting go of status and what other people think about you? We saw a lot of wounding there, you know, with all the bad mouthing. So there is a total process that has happened, of course, in both characters here on the table, on both sides, I want to say. And we do need to look at the King of Pentacles in the positive side also. So that would mean, as a to-do, right, for the divine feminines, as a to-do, to really care physically for your well-being. And we had a lot with that, with starfish and energy getting depleted. And that's just naturally happening in this harsh world where divine feminines get exploited all the time, unless they have their boundaries up. That's where we are here again, right? Willpower, boundaries, boundaries. She has sealed the underworld. There is this other reading where I speak about that. And right, the one before this one. And yeah, and she has her willpower right in her hand, right? And her solar plexus is blossoming there. And she says, I mean, she's all over, right? And with the lion. So she is all over blossoming in her self-esteem and self-confidence. And she knows exactly who she is, because that's the yellow. That's, soul. That's really who we are. Our true identity. And she shows it off, like totally confident. Even see how she's sitting? Nothing nice princess-like, but just so. I'm here, that's me. Hi. Right? And I do what I want, because I can. I decide for myself. And I have the strength to, literally, I have the strength to push it through. So, and this as a guidance to transform the King of Pentacles into a positive energy. This, we had here, I am used to stay in control through having the strongest boundaries in the room. That was one of the shadow messages. And the other was, I am used to be in control of situations and my emotions. So we do have, on the negative end, we do have someone here who is used to control their emotions, to have them in check, and also situations. And to do that through closing themselves off, right? And maybe through having a certain status. And that can be anything. That can also be someone who says, well, I am the psychologist, so I know better. And I'm not learning anything from the situations around me because I already know what's right. And I felt we need the violet candle because we were speaking about that a little bit in one session, and they forced me to mention it again. It's super, super important to always have an open mind, right? The truth, divine truth, goes directly through the crown. And if we are stuck here, if it's all already full, if we are not open to learn anymore, then, well, then we can go to sleep and wake up next life, I want to say. Then there is nothing more to come, right? If we are already perfect. And let me say that with another example, a good teacher is the one who learns the most in the classroom. That's just the archetype of the teacher. Because a good teacher would observe how every student picks up the theme and how every student is learning. And so they would learn the most because of all the ways they observe, right? Same with a psychologist. Same with anybody who has a certain status, a certain leadership position. If they are truly a leader, then, they come from that energy, from their inner truth. And they not hide behind status and power. And like, I'm sitting on this seat, that means I am this and that. I have this certificate, that means I am this and that. Oh, now I understand. I've been told also to tell you another story that came up literally when I started press here, and I was like, what's that about? Okay, so now I know. And it's way back in the day. It's really a long time ago when my kids were small. And when I, shifted from doing like full-time coaching work, I shifted to doing something at home with my kids integrated in the whole process, which is of course necessary. And and there was a schooling. It was from the church there, but it was a very, very good schooling, a very long and intensive, nice schooling about becoming a help, a support for families, you know. And then you could get the whole thing for no costs, and then you would sign up for having some hours at the emergency phone, and then the families with problems, they would then kind of, you know, get help. And yeah, and so it was kind of a very good program, and my friend and I, we both went there, and we were the only two younger women. Everyone else already had adult children. And very early on, it turned out that all the women were like crazy codependent. And I was like, what? What's going on here? That's so toxic. It's so toxic. And we spoke about that always on our way back and forth. You know, my friend said, yes, you're totally right, but, you know, I want the certificate. Otherwise, I don't feel safe in my life, right? I want that. And she married very young, and she had kind of a very low self-esteem, actually, because of that. And, you know, her husband was older, and so she felt she needed some proof that she also is someone, right? She had a little bit this princess problem. And, you know, being not taken for real, right? Because she was always the younger one. And yeah, interesting age gap, right? Very often in a divine counterpart connection. So, and I very early in the settings there, in the circle, I spoke up like crazy, right? And I called them all out. How that's not happening, right? That's not happening. You can't sit there and pitying the very people who aren't behaving, and like adult kids who were just, you know, totally on the roller coaster downward. And then of course you need people who put up those boundaries and who say, no, that's not the path, right? And later in life, I actually did have a project for 2 years where I was guiding like teenagers who went rogue back into their own, you know, most advanced, highest possible timeline. And I did that with first reconnecting them with themselves, like their core values, and then getting them to understand that there is a purpose for them also in life. And because a lot of those kids, they were just, you know, and this is relative for the divine masculine collective here, otherwise I wouldn't mention that. There are a lot of kids, boys mostly, that are suppressed through all the verbiage of all the female teachers, actually, because feminine energy is different than masculine. And it's not healthy for boys to only be, especially in their teens, with feminine energy. And they would always say, yeah, but please be quiet first. And yeah, but please, you know, listen first. And yeah, but please, first you need to be kind to everyone. And they are like raging, and they are like, no, that's unfair right here. And I need to express that. And, you know, we need to, you know, fight that out, that battle here. And so it makes much more sense to give them actual something to do and something to fight for. And if you want to train teamwork, then you have to give them a common goal and create a scenario where they learn to rely on each other and to work together and, you know, to show a little bit of vulnerabilities because they know they are covered through their teammates. And a lot of these rogue teenagers, they just never had adults who show up like confident but still supportive. They mostly have, you know, the one who shouts them down, who really shoots them down actually, and the one who's like, oh yeah, me, now you get some sugar. So it's really, you know, the whip and the sugar bread. And that's, of course, then they, at one point, they just get out. They totally get out of the game, and they are like, nope, I'm not doing anything anymore. And that's the point where they are just hanging out where they shouldn't hang out, right? And so that was an interesting excursion here. I hadn't expected that. But yeah, so these elder ladies there, they were all like, well, but you know, life is so difficult, and the poor boys. And I was like, well, they aren't boys anymore. Have you seen that? They are grown up, and we want them to be grown up, right? And in my whole educational teachings, what I did, you know, with all the parents I worked with, I always told them, well, if you see your 3-year-old little sweet kid now taking away the toy from the other kid, you might think that's so sweet, right? But guess what? If this very kid does that with 15 years also, what would you think then if the police calls, right? So you better teach them. You better teach them what's right and what's not right. You better teach them some willpower and some resistance. Though I really want that toy, but it's not okay to get it with force. It's not. Because my mom, she, you know, wouldn't expect that. I mean, accept that. My mom, she would, you know, she would tell me something. So we need more moms actually in the world who know what a no is, right? A real no. That's important. And these willpower things here, that's what holds any society together. We do need, you know, that's commitment. And commitment, it's not, yeah, I say, yeah, I will, but that's also doing it. You know, we speak a lot about, yeah, but they don't follow through. Yeah, why not? Because no one told them ever. They haven't good examples. And then on the other side, girls become toxic too, and they say, well, I need princess treatment, you know, all day long. And for how long? For 50 years or what? You aren't a princess anymore if you're a grown-up woman, right? A grown-up woman also has her responsibilities, and she also needs to be working for the team. And a union, it's always teamwork, and it's always bringing different skills as well as different weaknesses in a harmonious thing. And that's why I said earlier, you cannot expect them coming towards you being the fully blown up, healed empath, because that's not who they are. They are someone different than you are in a divine counterpart connection. And I mean, with every other people, you know, you never can expect, and that would make no sense, because then we wouldn't grow. Love is a means from the divine to help us grow. It's the very fabric of soul that knits us together and that weaves all these beautiful harmonious symphonies where we really can learn and grow together. So, and just in the story, you know, where the prince has to fight his dragon, which is his ego, and then, you know, then he stands there like with scars and all, coming out of his battle, having fought his ego. That's what they are doing right now, by the way. They are fighting their ego. They are in the storm, in the full-blown battle. And they have no one in their environment. See, they have no one in their environment who understands what's going on. Every other person around them is saying, well, you're going crazy. You are losing your mind. That's not healthy. That's not good. Probably she's a witch. It's not a good thing to do that. No. So they would get all, you know, all the bad mouthing, which came on here on that side. That's all created here from all these toxic people in the environment. And they are not bad people either. They just don't know, you know. In earlier days, it would have been like, you know, in the tribes, back in the day when everything was fine, then it would be like, there would be another adult man who would see, oh wow, this boy is falling in love, right? They are falling in love. Yes, that's falling. So they are now in their subconsciousness. They are in their underworld because they have fallen. There's the Ace of Swords, and they know it. So, and that's necessary because they need to build their own foundation. And to build an own foundation, we need to leave our family of origin. And both parties need to do that. And that's why princess treatment really isn't an option. Totally not. And we had the Princess of Pentacles here, and I saw the shadow in her immediately as what was in their environment. So they were, they had that, you know, they had that toxic expectations all around them from the girl's surrounding, right? And the toxic expectations from their peers that ego is a good thing because it keeps you safe, from the toxic girls who just, want to drain you. In a way, from their perspective, that makes so much sense, right? To be protected, to not show emotions. Because if you show too much emotions, then the toxic little ladies would drain you. Totally. Totally. So, but back to a healthy initiation into marriage, right? A sacred union, healthy initiation process. The guys, they lose themselves, right? They lose their ego basically. And that's what's necessary to even enter this state. It's necessary to lose your ego, totally. Otherwise, you are not in alignment with divine will, with the universe. Otherwise, the portal isn't opening. It isn't. And you know that because you have closed up your portal and you say, nope, not like this. This is not a man, right? See how much this is not a match right now? So this is right now. See? I mean, he's becoming. But, I mean, right now, he's kind of lost, right? In his underworld. But fighting, still standing, of course. It's the 9 of wands here. And so he's doing a good job, persevering. His soul, right? His soul is persevering. But see, it's also war kind of for him. And he is at war with his surroundings because that's what the divine masculine needs to go through. They need to not retreat from their environment, but to really break free. It doesn't go silent. It's a battle if you are embedded in a toxic environment with peers that want to hold you as small as they are, that don't want your growth, and with a family who don't want to, give you as much room as possible and who don't want to see you grow bigger than they are, but they want you right next to them. Like my little buddy right here, my boy, as always, right? My little one, stay here close. So always what we need to ask, if we check our environment, by the way, is who is there who would be truly happy for myself? If right now, right now, I'm winning whatever the lottery, let's just say that. So all of a sudden I'm super rich and I can do whatever I want and I live my best life somewhere on a tropical island. Who would be really happy for me just for myself? And not because, well, if they are rich and they are standing next to me, then I'm rich too, because I get their source freely. I mean, I have them as the source now in my life. And you really have to ask this question and act accordingly. Like, retreat from people where and you just know it in your heart, right? Who would take more and who would kind of constantly try to take more. And also, you have to ask yourself, if you step in divine purpose and you are about to receive like divine abundance, which is happening if you are fulfilling your divine calling, then you will get divine abundance, but you will get it for a purpose. And it's not, to eat 10 ice creams a day and to party only. That's not the purpose of divine abundance. Divine abundance is to build these heavenly realms. So what do you want to build? And how much money do you really need for yourself? I sat down with my kid literally and we speak just, about these things. And we really, because he works as a practitioner at a soup kitchen. And so we really think about these things, like how much money do a single person actually needs? And because money is not abundance, it's not just money, right? We know that, but I need to speak about that because we have the freaking King of Pentacles here, and we read him in the shadow at the beginning. So it's not about getting more money, but it is about getting your best life. It is about doing what you love doing. That's the Queen of Wands here, and the King of Wands too, right? The King of Wands, yes, they want to do what they love doing. That's why they are lit, and that's literally divine counterpart energy. See, lit, all yellow. See how yellow it all is here? Lit. Yeah. So, and abundance is, for example, and it's not only emotional either, right? There is so much more. There is the inspiration. There is, you know, getting the right answer the very moment you ask a question in the ether. That's abundance. I love that so much. How, you know, when I'm open, and I am always, everything is just, you know, flowing through. And this is divine feminine energy. When you are open within yourself, then it's just flowing through. And you know that. And when it's just flowing through, then of course you can manifest your dream life. Yeah, yeah. And as I said, a dream life is not dependent so much on money as we think, and especially not as, you know, society tells us. Not everyone needs to live in a mansion. And I can tell you, I have lived in a beautiful house earlier, just, you know, in the countryside, wonderful, beautiful. And I found out very quickly that it's a ton of work. And if you have something else to do in your life, then it's really not the best idea to have that, right? It's, or you have to, you know, you must have people to share. So it's, maybe it makes much more sense to have some place where you can share, right? And where you can maybe do ecological gardening and have people as practitioners and whatnot, and you know, learning and teaching, and I don't know, do workshops for schools or whatever it is, you know, help animals. And there are so many things we can do. But these old paradigms where it's always about, yeah, everyone needs to have a castle for himself. Yeah, but if you have a castle, you also would have, of course, a ton of people who take care for the castle. And I mean, you can do that, of course. That's fine for me. And that's also fine for the divine, right? For God, because then you sustain all the other people also who work for you and who sustain your life and care for your house. So it's all fine, right? But just decide for yourself, what is it what you really want? What is it what creates your abundance? What is it? I mean, with these cards on the table, that's really a total open gate, right? Total. And with the Magician, and it's so potent energy here. So it's really, the question is really, what is in there in all these cups? I actually wrote it down for me the other day because I was called to. There they are. Can we see them? Yes, it's okay. So that's root chakra opening, see? That's what the Phoenix is wanting to do here. And what they are doing right now, they are kind of walking into their alignment. Oh, I'm called to read the card underneath. Elevation. Okay, so what they are doing right now, it's elevation again. I free myself from fear and trust the universe. I direct my thoughts to the beauty inside and around me. I use my spiritual strength and knowledge to create light and rise above all doubt. Yeah, of course they doubt, because they have never experienced paradise before, and all they have experienced was kind of this situation. I even had, interestingly, which is of course linked to the reading, a little talk with my kid. He is in his nearly last section of school, right? And they need to sing today in the class in front of everyone else, and he was so, you know, pissed because of that. And with all the memories of middle school, where it's like, oh, everyone is laughing, right? And you need to stand there and just sing. And he was explaining it, trying to explain it. And then I said it for him to shorten it up a little bit, actually, and to make it clear for him also. And I said, yes, of course, because when you sing, it's not just holding, it's not just, making a presentation, but it's your emotions that are vibrating there. It's kind of, you need to open your heart. See, you need to open your heart, and you need to let your emotions vibrate freely. And that's the whole difficult thing here with having these strong boundaries, being controlled, having even the pentacles in front of the heart, right? Or the sword or whatever, or here, right? It's all about having something. This is for defense. He's in high defense. And he stands like a boxer, right? As if he's expecting a hit. And yes, of course, my kid also. And he has now a wonderful music teacher. And I was saying, well, take it as a healing session. And he's very early in the alphabet, so he is double pissed. But I said, well, then speak about that and say how much it really stresses you out, right? And this teacher is very, very nice, so they will go through it very nice. And yesterday also he had a test in German, so, native language. And the German teacher, she really isn't a good teacher, I must say. And she explains things not so you can really handle the pieces, but she's more like, like someone who speaks to adults, actually. So he gives a presentation of the topic, and then she creates a test, and in the test she puts in like a riddle, like a crossword riddle, the most difficult descriptions, like definitions, and then she asks for that without having really worked through that in class, without having really used these definitions so that they really all get what they mean. And that's, of course, what the teacher needs to do. You have a definition, and then you have to give it in the class as an experience. And for example, that's also a thing, of course, for people who get to know each other and who define what that even is a relationship. Because a relationship, happily ever after, whatever it is, that looks so difficult. I wanted to say different, yes, but obviously Divine Masculine is speaking, yes, of course, I channel the Divine Masculine Collective quite a bit. So yeah, so they are saying it's difficult because always, as I mentioned earlier, in school there were those female voices telling them off, like shooting them down, saying like, no, that's not how it goes. But no one ever explained, but how does it go, right? And the little girls, they also don't know, and they are standing there, well, you have to give to me. And I can do whatever I want because I'm the princess, ha ha ha. And that's literally how it goes very often. And princess, that's daddy's darling, right? And if we want to grow up, we need to step out of these shoes. And we need to wear our grown-up boots. Like, what's she even wearing? We can't see it. And we also, of course, becoming a woman means also to align totally with our reptile brain also, right? So this is the animalistic part of us. And divine feminine energy literally speaks about being in alignment with this very part. In the ascension process, which is depicted also in the spine, the divine feminine energy sits around the hips. This is this animal energy. Anima and animus, it's called in depth psychology, the divine feminine and divine masculine energy. And this is like the inner animal, actually, like the inner lion, the inner wolf, whoever you are. I don't know. Check it out. Who are you in the bedroom, right? So that's a part of you that is as valid as your angelic self. And that's not a bad thing. And while I was preparing to record, I also stumbled again over the Strength card in the Visconti deck, and see how different this can be seen. This is like 1400 something in Italy, Catholic, right? You have physical needs, wants, like lust maybe even. That's a bad thing. You're not allowed to have, right? I beat you down. Well, and that's actually this energy. I have the strong boundaries. I can, restrain myself until I'm suffering like crazy. But before I have to give in, and pamper all these unhealthy princesses who claim this and claim that, and then I have to, say, yeah, of course I'm in a relationship with you, though there is no foundation actually for nothing. And of course they kind of don't understand what they even shall do with their animals, with their libido. Where shall that go? And of course, this is something that needs to go into divine purpose. Nathaniel is saying that. Nathaniel is saying, well, if your heart chakra is opening, then you know where to put all your energy, your doing. It's of course not, your physical strength. It's not only, for the bedroom. It's to create, literally. And yes, that's one form of creation, yes. But I mean, how many kids do you want to create? Like 1,000 a week? No, I guess not. So maybe you should also do something else. And yeah. So, and they understand that. And see self-love, Nathaniel, purpose. And that's a gift, That's the gift that this divine feminine collective has brought to their divine masculines. The gift, the understanding, the knowing that yes, there is a purpose for my life actually. Actually, yes. It's not only about how can I go through with buying some, wine or pralines or, chocolate, whatever, and getting a little Valentine's sneak in maybe every now and then. No, it's literally about, wow, in my heart space, and the divine masculine energy in this analogy with the spine, and where the divine feminine is obviously in the hips, and we know where the sacral chakra sits, right? It's of course there. And the heart, that's divine masculine energy. The heart, that's the lion, that's the yes I do, that's this opening. And here he even tries to roar. He tries to speak. But yeah, maybe it will come out like a little crazy unarticulated roar, right? Because they can't. They don't have the definitions we have. They don't have the language. They absolutely not. And they never had a male mentor who told them, who said to them, yes, it's totally okay to leave your toxic peers behind to go for your better life. Thinking of Lewis House right now, right? He's a great mentor for guys, I feel, for divine masculine energy, and not only for guys. I mean, I love him too. So that's just divine masculine energy in its best, like school of greatness. Become who you want to, be. Someone you can be proud of, right? And he has also this deep story with his father suddenly not being available anymore, and a huge wake up, deep awakening journey. So yeah, if you do need support for the divine masculine side within yourself, I would say check him out. He's great. And he's coming through right now. Thank you. And so divine feminine energy, yes, it's allowing our body to be a part of us. It's allowing, you know, and the easiest way to tune back into divine feminine essence is really to walk with your hips smooth and not with this, I need to do something, you know, real quick. No, no, no. Not the runner energy, but the dancer energy. That's super, super healing for divine feminine. And also a lot of emotions are stored there and we need to get them out. And also you tune into your soul, into your intuition easily if you are in tune with your body. I just have created a proper intro finally, which I only play at the first part of the videos, but I mean of a session. So yeah, you can listen to that also. It's really important to, and you know, I did a lot of relaxation workshops, and it's so important for us to, so that we can even receive even a word. And we're speaking about receiving a life here, right? Receiving a love, maybe receiving our best life. And to tune into receiving mode, we really need to be open. And see, he is open also. See, it's how open he is. Yeah, I mean, this is the root chakra open, and the white, that's the channel from the divine down to earth. And also he draws it down here. And she literally is that embodied. Yeah. And traditionally it was number 11, and the 11th chakra, that's also this divine feminine energy, where it is really about being at one with every living creature, feeling that, you know, being part of all that is, of all life forms, all energies. And we have this very energy, I spoke about that earlier here. That's the very energy. We had that. Yeah, and this also is linked to the solar plexus and then to the left hand. And the next card in the tarot, Arcanum, you know, the next mystery. And by the way, the divine masculines, they are studying a little bit mysteries of God right now, like mysteries of spirituality, because we do have Archangel Raziel here, which comes, of course, with the very thing when we think about, oh yeah, I might have a kind of a purpose, right? And I do see a phoenix here. Yeah, can we take that here? I like that. No, he says we want to be, whoops, here rather. Okay. 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 Can you see it too?